Sometime life has to slow you down, even if it has to break your toe. Broken toe, friendship breach, Beyonce concert. Today, I'm sharing how these 3 moments birth the Luxe Identity Spiral, a framework that's helping women redefine success and luxury on their own terms. I can't help but laugh as I look back now on what happened. This was May 2025. I was so excited. It was a week of celebration. It was Mother's Day week. The early part of the week, I spent some time with my daughter in Washington, D.C. We had a great time. We went to the waterfront. We had dinner. We went to a show. We just did a bunch of stuff. And then I spent some time at home with my mom. And then at the end of the week, I went to Chicago to see Beyonce. Now, there was an issue because a friend and I were going together. She was having some trouble getting her schedule together. We were supposed to drive from Cleveland to Chicago, and it didn't work. So I flew instead. I was like, it's okay, I'm going to fly. And I was worried about her because she kept changing the time and changing the time. That was all fine. I got in on Friday, stayed with my stepmother and my family. We had such a good time, as we always do. The room that I stayed in, I turned off the light. And I was about to go downstairs to sit with my family, and boom, I bumped my toe. And I said, oh. I hobbled over to the light switch again, turned it back on, and my toe was over here. It was like between these two toes. This toe was way over there instead of straight up. And I was like, ah. And I looked for some kind of bandage so I could wrap my toes together because, you're supposed to wrap them. And my cousin came in. She was like, what you doing? And I said, I think I broke my toe. What? Yeah. This was Friday. Beyonce was Sunday. And my stepbrother said, I'll take you to the hospital emergency room or whatever. But it was late. And I said, let me just see. Let me just go tomorrow. I went online. I found a place. I said, is this good? He said, oh, yes. It's farther away. It's not right by where we live, but this will work. It was a part of the University of Chicago hospital system. It was connected to the hospital system here in Cleveland that I go to. Fine. Everything works out. My stepbrother had to take his car to get fixed or something. He had that one towed. He took my cousin's car behind his car to get towed. My cousin and I took an Uber to the University of Chicago's urgent care at 8 a.m. And they wheeled me in, which was all good. And I was like, okay. And they were like, what's going on? I said, I think I broke my toe. And the lady looked at it and she was like, it looks like you probably did. She asked me, did you take any painkillers, any pain medication? And I was like, I took a Tylenol. Little did I know this was a foreshadowing moment that she was trying to tell me, you should have taken some painkillers because you're going to be in pain. My cousin and I are just chatting it up. And the doctor was like, we're going to x-ray it. It's going to be sent to the main hospital. If the radiologist has some time, they will review it and then send it back to us and let you know if your toe is broken. They take me to the back, and the technician says I'm going to have to take a few different angles, positions of your foot and your toe. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It was like one side, then the other side, and the back side. And she was like, now I have to isolate the toes. She taped down the big toe. I was like, whew. Then the second and third toe, and I was like, ah! And then that pinky toe, she pulled it down too, and I was like, ah! I'd never felt pain like that before. And she was like, I didn't really get it good because the pinky toe and these other toes are in the way. She pulled them back and taped these back. This like ring finger toe was isolated. I think it was a ring finger toe, whichever toe it was. And tears burst out of my eyes. I could not believe it. And she was like, I'm so sorry. And I said, you're just doing what you have to do. And yeah. So it was all done. We get back to the room and I said to my cousin, did you hear me screaming? She said, no. But when the doctor came in, she said, yes, we all heard you screaming. And it didn't take very long, I guess. They weren't busy at the main hospital. They reviewed my x-rays and yes, indeed, the metatarsal was broken. They gave me some painkillers. And I'm going to say like some inflammation medicine. And I was like, okay. So I'm thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to go see Beyonce? I don't know, but I'm going to do it anyway. We were brainstorming. I had a day. I decided to rest. And I reached out to my friend and the other friend that was coming from another state and we were going to all come together. And I said, will you guys please wait for me? Please wait for me and surround me to make sure nobody steps on my toe. Sure, of course, no biggie. I was like, cool. My stepbrother said, I have some brand new tennis shoe boots, and they were a little bit bigger than my foot. And he was like, why don't you wear those and we can try to wrap your foot. So the whole day we were trying to strategize. We figured it out. The shoes worked. And since it was cold, it didn't even matter because I wasn't trying to wear my cowboy boots where my toes was pinched and be extra cute because it was freezing. I want to say it was 45 degrees this weekend. I get there and there's a series of other things that happened that made me late, but I finally got in. And after the show was all over, Beyonce was amazing. Blue Ivy was amazing. Rumi was amazing. The dancers were amazing. Everything was amazing. It was freezing, but it didn't matter. It was amazing. And I found out later, Beyonce, of course, started on time instead of a little bit later because it was colder and she wanted to get in and get out. So as the sun set, it didn't get colder and colder that night. She even said, you guys are troopers sitting here in 45-degree temperature. And yeah, because I had on tights, I had on a long sleeve shirt, I had on a scarf, I had on gloves. Anyway, so after it was all over, there was a breach with a friend because I asked her to stay with me until the wheelchair person came to get me, and she didn't. And I was confused by that. She reached out to say, did you get home? And I was like, I did. And I'm not going to get into all the parts about what happened in this section, but I realized after a few more weeks that this friendship was no longer going to be what it had been. Because when I needed somebody, and I'm the kind of person who doesn't ask a lot, I tend to be the person who gives advice and helps. And so therefore, I realized for myself that when you give and give, sometimes you don't allow people to grow in their giving because you've done it all the time and the friendship is off level. I went to my best friend and I said, friend, I've had some other friendship issues over the last year with either people taking advantage of me or people had certain expectations or they've done something that wasn't quite up to speed. And so she knows all the folks. And I said, can you give me a list of things that I can work on? Because I said, if it's all this is happening to me, it's probably me. And she said, Dawn, I rebuke that. That's why you always have to have a good best friend. Now she's honest and she'll tell me when I need to do something. And she said, Dawn, why don't you study your birth chart? And I was like, okay. And she was like, study your birth chart, go to ChatGPT, put some questions in there and ask it to go through all of these questions so you can understand your birth chart and how you interact with people and how that interaction can create better communication or either like certain people that you fit with better, all those kind of things. I was like, okay. I went to get all my details, drop them into ChatGPT and begin to ask questions. I asked so many questions. I want to say this went on for 2 to 3 days of asking questions and refining it and the iterations of it and going back. I asked about my shadow side. I asked about a 3-year plan for me and my business. I asked for books to read and podcasts to listen to. On and on. It was so amazing. Let's just say this. My sun sign is very much a person who likes structure, who likes lists, who likes to know how things are going to be, order, sometimes can be a perfectionist, sometimes can be a little dominant. And this side of me likes rituals. I like to check off that I did a certain ritual. My moon side, which is more of my emotional side, is the side that's facing out. This side was really searching for her identity and needed to be validated in this identity. And then the last side, which was my rising, likes luxury. And I said, wait a minute, you mean your sign can say you like luxury? I do like luxury. Over here, I have one of my favorite candles burning from my favorite store at Anthropology, and that makes it feel luxurious. You can see my little egg chair over here. I love this egg chair. It's luxurious for me. I have soft things that I like to wear, very nice clothing that I've gotten from a local designer. She creates these like handmade clothing. I really like luxurious things. Now, it doesn't have to be money, because luxury doesn't have to be money, but this idea of feeling luxe. And I said, whoa, you mean that my birth chart can give me more about who I am and my business? I said, let's go deeper. First, we created what I call a soul blueprint, and I actually work with people on this. I show them the prompts that I use to get them to what they need from their birth chart, which is fantastic, fabulous. And if you are interested, you need to just let me know. Just type something down here in the box below in the comments and say soul blueprint, and we can get started on that. I can show you how to set up a time for us to work on your soul blueprint. The person I just recently worked with, she was like, Dawn, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And she felt validated, she felt affirmed, she felt assured, and she felt this is exactly where I need to go. Unapologetically me, and now I understand why I am the way I am and who I serve. I went from there, I started to read tons of books. I'm a former school librarian. I love to read books. I read so many books that helped me along this path of mindset, abundance, of feminine energy. I listened to new podcasts by people I had not followed before. And I was like, whoa, some of them are business, some of them are coaching, some of them are speaking in front of audiences, some of them have to do with abundance and money, all of these kind of things that come together. And then I started to journal like crazy. I had prompts that ChatGPT gave me. I was free writing. I created even like this script for myself that I listened to, all based on my soul blueprint. And then I created the Luxe Identity Spiral, because the luxe is my rising side, the luxurious side. The identity is really knowing who you are. That's my moon side, probably your moon side, because it's who you are. You got to really, because a lot of times we just say, oh, my sun side is this. My sun sign is this. And you forget that that's who you present, but that's not necessarily who you are. Knowing your identity. And then last is a spiral. The spiral is not spiraling down, it's spiraling up. It's this motion, this moving of going up higher and higher, like climbing a ladder, but not so stiff. And inside of the spiral are systems, our rituals, our routines, our checklists, our tips. That is my sun side. So exciting. I can't even begin to tell you, but that's what the Luxe Identity Spiral is. So let's just say that the broken toe is this idea of stillness and reflection. I had to take some time to be aware. My toe is still hurting. It's been almost 2.5 months now. It takes time for that to heal. It's all about slowing down. It's all about reflection. And I never thought that having a broken toe would be a part of my coaching, of my own practice, of me sharing here on YouTube. Yes, the broken toe equals stillness. I shouldn't say the broken toe equals. The broken toe goes towards stillness and reflection. It was a reminder to do that. That was my aware moment. The friendship breach is alignment with boundaries. You have to have boundaries with friends, with family, with colleagues, with your customers, your clients, your potential clients. We need boundaries because people will keep coming back to your life and draining you. And sometimes if they're not mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, they bring you down. Boundaries. And then Beyonce is all about action and embodiment. And when you see Beyonce on stage, she has spent hours on certain movements, if not days, weeks, and months. Beyonce is action and embodiment. We know that when Beyonce is thinking something, she sees it in her head. She's going to make it happen. So her stage, her set, her costumes, her hair, the way her background singers look, the way that her band sounds, the way that the dancers are dancing and looking, everything is very purposeful. This whole thing, from the broken toe to the friendship breach to Beyonce, is a Luxe Identity Spiral. It's all three. Who knew that all of these were going to come together? It's an evolution from achievement to alignment, from grind to grace, from proving to receiving, right? Let's play that back again. It's an evolution from achievement to alignment, from grind to grace, from proving to receiving. These are the things that I want you to think about, because I should have kept the light on. I should have slowed down. The first takeaway for you is slow down before life forces you to. The second core lesson I want you to think about is boundaries aren't bougie. They're necessary for magnetism. I want you to think about everything that you're doing is creating this pull to you. It's all about alignment. It's all about matching your frequency. If you think about a magnet pulls metal towards itself, what it needs. And so you are that magnet. You're pulling things towards yourself. But things that don't need to be pulled to you, that's a boundary. You're going to keep it over there, or you keep this one over here, and you keep yourself focused on where you need to go. And then the third core lesson is embodiment is the bridge between dreams and reality. Think of Beyonce. She has all of these dreams. She has all of these ideas, and she made them a reality. We can do the same thing. The Luxe Identity Spiral is all about embodiment, feeling it in yourself and then creating it, making it happen in real time. And one of the first things that we do is that we have to move our bodies every day. We need to drink more water every day. We need to get a lot more sleep. We need to meditate, pray, release, right? Journal. All of these things are embodiment practices. So we feel it, we see it, we know it, we be it, we are it. You don't need a broken toe or a Beyonce ticket to start your spiral. Start with one aligned choice today. If this story spoke to you, subscribe for more mindset, magnetism, and living your Luxe life. I like that. Living your Luxe life. And if you're ready to begin your spiral, grab my free Luxe Magnetism Ritual Guide. I can't wait to tell you more about that in the next video, but the link is in the description. Bye.